Hilton brings you new ways to stay, with experiences that let you capture the glory days. Introducing the Graduate Hotels. Each inspired by local college towns, these stays are always original and never boring. Get in touch with traditions all across the country and enjoy a stay that's a class above the rest. Book at Graduate Hotels with Hilton Honors Points at Hilton.com. It's a win-win. Hilton, for the stay.
Taking you behind the curtain. It's the Joan Hamburg Show. Talk Radio 77 WABC.
I'd like to propose a toast. Here's to the ladies who lunch. Everybody laugh. Lounging in their caftans and planning a brunch on their own behalf.
Welcome, everyone, to the Joan Hamburg Show, and a real treat. Patti LuPone, one of my favorite people, is visiting, and believe me, I know what it takes because Patti is starring in Company, playing at the Bernard Jacobs Theater on 45th Street. And to do all those performances and then get up and be nice and charming on the show is amazing. And you know, I was talking to Patti a few seconds ago, and Broadway is no secret, is having a tough time with a lot of shows. And a lot of shows are not running full houses. Company, my dears, the place was packed. And I understand from the box office, it's crowded all the time. And I thought how thrilled Sondheim would have been to see a show he loved, particularly this version of it, with all of you, and see people screaming and cheering and so excited back where they belong, on Broadway, where everyone is having a fabulous time. And I hope you're having a fabulous time, dear Patti.
I am, Joan, and I wanted to say that I would get up at any hour to talk with you.
I thank you.
I'm having a blast. I'm having a blast with this company, and you know, it's God, I could weep. It's so heartwarming and reaffirming to hear that audience reaction, and it's not just for us. It's for the release of the pandemic. You know, the release of the lockdown. It's the laughter. It's a lot of stuff. It's really wonderful. It's really wonderful to experience.
And you know what it is too, when we're in the audience, and I love theater, and I've been talking about and covering theater for my whole career. I felt normal. Now, we never even talked like that, but almost 2 years, we're going on the third year. So many ups and downs, so much loss, so much learning to do nothing, which has to be learned for a lot of people. And then we're back in the theater, and we can let it go for those hours. And what a gift that is. Yeah.
When we started rehearsal, you know, because we were 10 days into previews, or maybe 10 days before Steve's 90th birthday, when we were to open, and was shut down, and then, of course, the 2 years, the 18 months of what was going on. When we started rehearsal again, this company was like deer caught in headlights. We just were confused and PTSD, and it started to feel normal for us backstage. I mean, we're PCR lab tested every night in order to keep COVID out of the building. Right. But besides, and we wear masks from our dressing rooms to the stage. But it started to feel normal again, and it started to feel like, you know, it started to feel so normal that we started to get grumpy about an 8-show week. You know what I mean? It's like, that was a good feeling. That was a good feeling.
And 8 shows a week is a killer.
Yeah, it is.
No matter how much you love it.
Right. They say Broadway ain't for sissies.
It's true. Now, do you stay near the theater?
I commute back and forth to Connecticut.
Wow.
And then I stay in the city nights before matinee days. But, my commute, and I've been doing this since anything goes, back in 1987, it's either 2 hours in a bar or 2 hours to my house in Connecticut. And if I want a drink, I can have a martini in the car. Someone else is driving me. But I want to wake up next to my husband and in Green. I live in a very rural part of Connecticut. And it's the leveler. My life is an entirely show business. My life is an entirely Broadway. And that's the way I like it.
I know, and that's often not easy to do.
No.
To have both worlds strong and solid.
Well, I learned years ago, John, when I was with the acting company, John Houseman's the acting company, and we did nothing but act. And at one point I went, where's my life? And and that was when I was a kid, when you'd think I would be desperate just to act. But I realized that this is in everything, and I can't be a better actor if I don't invest in my life, if I don't understand human nature, if I don't see nature. And so I learned a long time ago that my life is more important than my craft, and my life feeds my craft.
Well, I find that really interesting because a lot of people can't find the real person or understand the acting is wonderful, the theater is your life too, but if you don't have or aren't grounded in something, it just isn't worth it.
Yeah, right,
And
exactly right.
And of course, and you've all been through a lot with the loss of Sondheim and everyone questioning, because there was no one and is no one like him.
No.
What's going to happen to musical theater? Now, I know that's probably ridiculous.
It's not. It's not ridiculous. It's not ridiculous at all. We had I'm trying to find the right word. I mean, the thing I said was, who will make me better? Steve was a taskmaster. Steve's music was complicated to achieve. His lyrics were complicated to interpret, to comprehend. Who will make me better? I think if the producers in our industry invest in young talent and invest in the ideas of young talent, then we might develop another Stephen Sondheim. There'll never be another Stephen Sondheim, but somebody in that vein that educates, that moves us, that is incredibly poignant. But it's all about money, and it kind of breaks my heart. I love it when I see musicals like Rent and You're in Town and Hades Town and Spring Awakening slip through the money gears of Broadway. You just want to hit. Well, you can't guarantee. It's a losing bet. Broadway is a losing bet. You have to love the theater and you have to love the creators to invest. So I wish there were more producers that took a shot with our young talent. I was a panelist on the Jonathan Larson grant, and I heard so many great ideas by great young composers, lyricists, and playwrights. They'll never see the light of day.
No.
It's a drag.
No, it's tough. And with this pandemic has not made life easy, because, there are plenty of producers who might be willing to put dough in a musical, a big musical. But during this pandemic, when everything has been so iffy, we've seen the money dry up with a lot of shows that we're looking forward, or a lot of young talent. It's a heartbreaking business, but
it sure is.
But as you once said to me, when I was a little kid, 4 years old, I sort of knew inside what I was going to do.
Yeah. Well, I love performing, and I love the audience. That's the thing that triggered me when I was a kid. But what triggered me was I thought they were all looking at me. But I can't get in trouble up here. Yeah, and there's nothing like live theater. There really isn't that instant communication between audience and actor. And There's just nothing like it.
When you told your family that theater was going to be it, and you actually were in the first drama class at Juilliard, was this okay, or did they want their girl to do something like a
Well,
teacher?
my dad wanted my brothers and I to be teachers, and when my mom and dad got divorced, I thought, okay, well, we're released from that. We don't have to worry about that. And then my mother, God bless her, just took my brothers and I around to dance classes, and they started it by enrolling us in an extracurricular activity, and mine was dance. They started it, so I guess they didn't expect us to fall in love with it.
Both of you too.
Yeah,
That's a
right.
double hit.
Right. And then my mother, was very supportive, except my mother was also very famous for saying to my brother and I wish you'd stop flitting from job to job. I was like, yeah, well,
Yeah.
Ma, guess what? They don't run.
This is it.
Yeah, that's the life.
I know. And didn't you have a great or great grandmother who was an opera singer?
Great grand aunt Adelina Patti, who was a coloratura, famous for giving farewell tours. And yes, very famous. Yeah.
So the voice was part of the gene pool.
Well, I guess because my mother couldn't sing, nor could my dad. Not at all. Not musical at all. So, yeah, that's what I'm assuming.
No, but it's fantastic. And this version, dear audience, Company is a different Company. So even if you have seen Company, this is totally new. Totally new. And I think the main character is a woman in this as opposed to a male character. I just found this even more relatable.
Yeah.
It's about love, and why isn't, with 35th birthday party, why isn't Bobby the lead getting married? And, all the things that a lot of us grew up with.
Right.
I don't know if you had that. You didn't have that pressure, did you, as an actor?
No, not at all. But childbearing years, yeah. I mean, I put pressure on myself, childbearing
Right.
years. But and the thing is that what's wrong with a 35-year-old male boinking beautiful women and not married? Nothing. What's wrong with a woman? Or what is considered in society wrong with a woman boinking beautiful men and not married? And that's that's at the heart of our Marianne's interpretation of this. That she gets asked the question. Women get asked the question all the time: when are you going to get married? When are you going to have kids? So it's really poignant, and we have the absolute beautiful Katrina Lenk as Bobby, as our leading lady, who is an extraordinary actress, an extraordinary human being, and so charming on stage, so charismatic. And so, you're on her side, as opposed to, what's wrong with this guy? Or rather, there's nothing wrong with this guy. And then, she gender bends other characters, like Amy and Paul in the original for the song I'm Not Getting Married Today is Jamie and Paul. It's a homosexual couple. And she flips also the internal scenes where in the original, I think the woman got stoned. Now it's the husband. It's the wife that got stoned and couldn't figure it out. Now it's the husband. Oh, no, it was a husband. I can't remember, actually. But she's flipping
a lot
the
of
internal.
gender changes.
Yeah, and she's flipping internal responsibility. And women have a more powerful presence in this production than in the original. In the final scene, the women are the ones telling the men, chill out, leave her alone.
Yeah, but I'm just telling you that we all related to this. I told you I heard my mother's voice in my head. I grew up in a little town, and that flag was at half-mast because I wasn't married at 21, 22. They were like, what are we going to do? Anyone who was over 5'9" was dragged in. And my father, when the blind dates would show up, would stand at the door and yell up the stairs, heels, flats, depending upon the size of the date. So we all, you're right. You could feel the
Excuse me.
same way for a guy, but we sort of reached out and looked at this beautiful Bobby. But we didn't think, why didn't she get married? Because she had so much.
Yeah. She's a modern woman. She is a modern woman. And she says it in it. I had things I had to do, get my career going. She says it. But why is that not okay for women?
But it's like everything else.
Right.
It's just not okay.
Right.
And it's still to this day, it's different. One guy said to me, he had been divorced. He said, "Oh my gosh, I couldn't even get a date until I was 20-something years old." He said, "And now it's like a candy store." So the world has changed.
Yeah.
And has Broadway changed a lot, do you think, since the pandemic? I mean, emotionally, everyone is up and down all the time.
I don't think, internally, our theaters and our backstages have changed, but I do think the neighborhood has changed. And I think actually this started happening right after 9/11, where people didn't go out after the show. So, all of our theater bars, most of our theater bars are shuttered, and a lot of the restaurants stop serving at 9:30. There's no late night dining. So it's difficult if you want to go out after the show to find a place that's also pandemic related. But I think the neighborhood has changed completely. And it's sad. It's really sad. For instance, Kadama, which is a Japanese restaurant that really serviced everybody in the theater district backstage, is gone. And I've been going to Kadama. It must be 40 years. It was a Japanese restaurant opposite the Martin Beck.
No, I'm telling you, I looked for it recently and thought, how could this place be gone?
Yeah.
And
so,
it was like Sardi's finally opened again.
Yeah, right, exactly. And
But
Joe
still,
Allen's is open, but Orso's isn't open yet. And
I know,
it's
and
just
that's the
difficult
heart
to
of the
find places.
theater.
Pardon me?
I said that's like the heart of the theater, these places.
Yeah, it's weird.
Well, I noticed too, people are nervous. When I was at the theater the other night, and it was a fairly early night, and people were out, but there were no cabs. There were a lot of homeless people on the street, and there was a lot of anxiety.
Yeah.
And they've got to fix that too.
Yeah.
That should be doable. And do you find too, with all the goings on now in theater, with so many shows struggling, that star power makes a big difference?
I think word of mouth makes a big difference. I think it is advantageous to have a recognizable name, but I think any show that is exciting and inspires an audience, word of mouth is the thing that really keeps the show running. Stars do, and I don't want to denigrate my contribution to a box office, but I do think that if I was in a show and it stunk, it wouldn't run. If I'm in a show that inspires people, it'll run. I think it has more to do with how people relate to the entire event.
And you've turned down shows that you've read, and even though it was, great opportunity, starring roles and everything, and you've turned them down if you thought the book just wasn't good enough.
Yes, because it's a lot of work to rehearse a musical, to tech a musical, to preview a musical, and still be in rehearsal, and then to flop. It's a lot of work and anxiety.
I know. It's amazing. And I remember at one point when your kid was little, didn't he want to be an actor at some point?
Who, my kid?
Yeah.
He still does.
Or he was too smart, huh?
No, but he still does, and he's what we did in the pandemic. If you don't mind me plugging something,
not at all.
We were, the whole family was together in Connecticut, and my kid was restless, and basically I told him, look, you have to create your own work. That's the way the business is going now. You have to create your own work. So my kid, Joshua, came up with an idea And it was to dramatize great American literature and have it be acted by American actors. And what we've done over the course of the pandemic, and it's now released on the Broadway Podcast Network, and it's called Radio Play Revival. We recorded actors in their homes, and my kid produced and edited 8 episodes.
You're
starting
kidding.
with
Good for him.
Yeah, starting with The Gift of the Magi, which was on Christmas Day. But the actors that we got and continue to get is extraordinary. LaTanya Richardson, Samuel L. Jackson, Keith David read or acted Gift of the Magi. Stephen McKinley Henderson, John Benjamin Hickey, Sam Robards did A Californian's Tale. I directed Zingu by Edith Wharton. And listen to my cast: Charles Bush, Bridget Everett, Blair Brown, Anna Devere Smith, Harriet Harris, Catherine Grody, Eva Marie Saint, and Michelle Williams.
Oh, not bad for
Yeah, and then there were Jessica Chastain and Michael Urie read The Yellow Wallpaper. So there's 8 episodes out of Radio Play Revival on the Broadway Podcast Network, and he's now working on season 2. So he's kept himself creative in this dearth of activity.
I think that's fantastic.
I mean, they're extraordinary. They're so wonderful to listen to. It's like listening to, we don't give ourselves the time to stop and listen anymore. Those MTV sound bites that we were so conditioned to years ago have taken over our lives. Our attention span is so short.
Well, and computers too contribute.
Yeah,
everyone wants instant answers.
Exactly. And so I force myself to sit down and go, I'm going to give myself this 18 minutes, this 20 minutes, this 49 minutes, and listen to a story. And these are great American writers. It's American literature.
I think it's fabulous. Tell everyone again how they can access these.
On the computer, Broadway Podcast Network, or any place that you hear your podcasts, and it's called Radio Play Revival. And the logo looks like an old-fashioned radio station where a man and a woman are over a microphone, and it's they're in silhouette. But they're really wonderful. He just recorded Jefferson Mays, Michael Urie, and Christopher Walken for the second season of The Most Dangerous Game, and he's now doing an original play with Joe and Gia Mantegna, me, Anderson Cooper, and Andy Cohen, and Bobby Cannavale is the narrator.
Oh yeah, listen. He's on to something really good. That's so exciting.
It's really wonderful. It's really wonderful. It's just really, I don't know. And the fact that the actors, this was during the pandemic, and everybody felt, we needed to continue to be creative in some way. Because God knows what happens when you stop. I don't know. What happens?
Absolutely.
What happens when we stop our lives? How do we get our lives back?
Well, that's going to be the big question as it continues, this virus, for rates to fall. And we have to figure out what to do again and how to live again. How many of us have spent time? Well, you, of course, were in the show, and then it was not the show, and then the show again. But I said I became the queen of doing nothing. I never knew how to do nothing.
Neither did I. Neither did I. And it was upsetting. I kept saying, is this retirement? Because I'm not qualified.
Because we don't like it.
Do you know what happened to me? Because of, the financial worry, we had a gardener, we've got property in Connecticut, so we had a gardener. We had to fire the gardener, so I started to weed, and I sprained my thumbs weeding. I went, what the hell? I can't even do that.
but reading is a lot easier than bending over and gardening too.
Well, it's like, and I don't have a hobby. My hobby has been my profession, my entire career. I don't knit. I read a lot. I cook, but I don't have a hobby.
I know. This
is my hobby. So it was
scary.
Really difficult. Yeah,
I know. And it's so funny you're saying that. One of my kids said to me, your problem, Mom, is you don't have a hobby. I said, what's hobby? You know,
Yeah, right.
I've worked
Right.
my whole life. That's my hobby.
Yeah, right.
And
That's how I felt.
what is a hobby? I don't know how to play cards or anything like that. I know how to
Yeah,
eat.
right.
If you want to consider eating, I'm a star hobbyist. But, and that, well, a lot of us did that, cooked.
Yeah, cooked. Right.
You did a
Right.
lot too. Do you
And
feel,
you know what?
Patty?
Sorry. Go ahead.
But I was just going to ask you, but go ahead with your thought, and then I'll
I was
ask
going
you.
to say that the other thing that occurred was the trying to find the positiveness in it. And I kept looking for the silver lining. And actually, I started singing the song, Look for the Silver Lining. And there were silver linings. One of them was the fact that my family was together. And
Right.
we would, do what we needed to do during the day, and we would come together for dinner, cocktail hour and dinner, which hadn't happened in many, many years.
Mm-hmm.
And the silver lining was the time we were given, to reflect, the time we were given to relax, the time we were given to take stock of our lives. And I continue to look for the silver lining in all of it. Now the silver lining is I remain never thought in 2021 the dominant sentence would be I remain negative. I'm not
Exactly.
positive. I'm negative.
Negative. And our hearts fill with joy
Exactly.
when we know that.
Exactly. Every night. I just looked at my COVID test this morning and I remain negative.
Thank the Lord.
Yeah, I mean, I believe in the science. And I took care of what I was supposed to do. I'm vaxxed and I'm boosted and I'm masked and I'm respecting other people.
That's exactly right.
I
know.
What a world
Exactly
we're living in.
right. When I was in the theater the other night, there was a woman sitting in front of us, two women together, and the minute the lights dimmed, she took her mask down. So I said to my producer, who was sitting next to me, we're going to report her. So
Yeah.
the producer said, who's going to report her? I said, you are going to report her. And we called the usher over. Who they walk up and down the aisles in
Yes.
company with a sign, And she was terrific, the usher, with being strict. And we didn't say anything. We just pointed.
And did she put the mask back on and keep it back on?
Bad. The usher just said, on immediately, and in a tough voice, and she put it on. But
Good.
she and her friend, very happy to take it off, the minute the light went dark. So your show does a really good job with making people feel safe.
Well, it's, and all of a sudden, I said this earlier, a long time ago, I said, not only do I have to act, but I have to be a policeman in the audience, a policeman of the audience, which is not fair. But our ushers are really wonderful doing that. And first it was telephones and videos. Now it's telephones, videos, and masking. It's like, think of your neighbor. Freedom is not just about you. It drives me nuts.
That's Patti LuPone starring in Company, a big hit on Broadway, and a good time to get tickets, too. Right now, make you feel good. I'm telling you, I felt like a normal person living a normal life.
Thank you.
And that makes a big difference. Are you optimistic with all this, aside from your show, which we know? But a lot of new shows are struggling to sell a ticket. Do you feel optimistic about the theater and what's going on? Hopefully this will ebb away soon, but we don't know.
Well, if our show is any indication of people's desire to get back into a live experience, I have hope. I have hope. I think, again, that earlier that the shows have to be good enough for audiences to spend that kind of money.
Right.
But I do have hope that people are desperate for the connection, the human connection.
And Patti, when you're in a show like this, which is a big hit and selling out regularly, do you keep your eyes open for other things, or this is full attention?
Oh, no, of course I keep my eyes open. Broadway, who knows how long will last? It's that same, that was back to my mother's expression. I wish you wouldn't flit from job to job. One never knows how long you're going to be running, or how long, your sitcom lasts, or how long, if your movie's going to do any good and you're going to get hired afterwards. If you're only as good as your last shift, as they say. So, of course, everybody's looking for another job.
I know. And
we're happy in the ones we're in, and we hope that they last. But if they don't, you have to be prepared.
I had a program director once who said to me, the secret to success is coming to work with your bags packed. And,
Absolutely right.
Right? I sort of like that. But when you in company sang Ladies Who Lunch, the audience collectively, and you're working in the theater's a big house, the audience collectively was like, oh, they were so excited to hear you do this, so happy. People literally started to stand up.
Oh, thank you.
And it was so touching. Anyway, I love chatting with you. I hope the show runs forever and that the next one is just waiting in the wings. Maybe a TV thing for a while so you can get rich.
I hope so, too, and I love talking to you. And as I said at the beginning, I'll wake up at an hour to talk to you, Joan.
Thank you, Patti. All the best to you, and I'm so excited to hear about your son. Hello to your husband, and we'll do this again.
Thank you, Joan. God bless.
And you too. Enjoy the day. I'm Joan Hamburg, Patti LuPone, starring in Company at the Bernard Jacobs Theater. Don't miss the opportunity to see one of the greats on Broadway. You're listening to the best radio station, WABC. More to come.